welcome to Lions on Leashes. I am your host, Marissa. This is a podcast where strong females share how they got to where they are today. Our second episode is with Nicole Dama. So excited. Nicole is a voice actress from the Hudson Valley. She considers herself a jackée of all trades for her vast career experiences. She has put voice acting on her New Year's resolution list every single year, and she's finally done it. She's also decided to financially and emotionally invest in herself, but not just in her passion, but also in mental health, which is a big part of our segment. Nicole is one of the nicest people, and she shares that back in the day, at a grocery store, they had to call for her over the speakers because she was helping senior citizens pick out cards for their grandchildren. That's how awesome Nicole is. Regardless of her generous time that she puts in for her community, she's finally putting voice acting and self-care first, and that is a lady with lions. And wait until you hear what she does for self-care. Like, I'm going to start doing some of the things that she says, but I'm not going to give it away. Follow Nicole on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at World Domination. Also, check out her website at worlddomination.com. We do get a small voice impression out of her. And with that said, let's get this episode started. So, where are you originally from?
So I'm originally from Hyde Park, New York. It's the home of FDR. It's about 2 hours above the city.
That's a cool fun fact for your hometown. Not everyone
Yeah,
has that.
there's not a lot to go on from Hyde Park, but we have a couple things. Guy Fieri's been there. There's been the diners, drives, and dives.
Guy Fieri.
Yeah, Fieri. And FDR home, and then there's one of Eleanor's estates there in a Vanderbilt estate.
Fancy.
But there's not a lot going on in that town.
Other than major historical milestones for our country, and Guy Fieri, of course, we'll consider him a historical milestone. So how did you get into voice acting? Like, how does one just come upon that?
Oh, so I have always been interested in voice acting since I was a kid, and I honestly didn't know that it was something people could do. I had never met anybody who really had done it, except for people who worked in radio and whatnot. But my grandpa was my best friend as a kid, and we would just do like little impressions, and he always loved my like Louis Armstrong impression because I'd be like, "It don't mean a thing, everything, and let's ring, blah, 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 blah." And I was like a little kid, and he was just like, "That's so fun." And ever since I've always loved to use my voice and and I've had random opportunities throughout time, but I mean, I've put it on my New Year's resolution every single year of life. And then this year I actually did it. And of course, 2020 is the year of everything kind of done, done, done. So I was in a leadership fellowship, the New Leaders Council, and you're supposed to take on a capstone project. They give you something personal or something professional. And I was like, oh, I joined this program. I should, learn a little bit more about advocacy and policy work. But there was a part of me that wanted to do something personal to myself because I never do. And so I wanted to focus a little bit inward. So I made my capstone project that I would launch my voiceover career. And that was in January, kind of when I made that plan, January, February. And in March, I had signed, at the end of February, early March, I signed up for classes through Voice Coaches, which is a organization out in Colony, and they offer training and classes, and they'll record your demo and whatnot, and they try to talk you out of it because it is a very competitive field. But I went and I went to an informational class. It was kind of right before the shutdown. From that class, they do a small recording of you to see if they could work with you. After that, they were like, "Listen, we want to give you folks a deal." And I had a little bit of money saved up, so I invested. And then I had my fellowship to kind of keep me accountable to the goal of kind of recording my demo and launching myself. And that's kind of just where I am. I mean, I haven't done a crazy lot to kind of put myself out there. I haven't gotten any big gigs, but that's where I started in a long run-on sentence of that's where I started.
No, that's amazing. There's a couple things I want to discuss. First off, finally investing in yourself, whether it was financially or emotionally, time. I think that's really, really important because we always make excuses for ourselves. And a perfect example of that is I've had this Lion on Leashes pitch to people and this like, oh, it's just still like a project in my head for literally probably over a year. I think
Oh.
I was pitching it to someone December going into 2019. And finally, this is episode 2. So, what was that moment for you that you finally said, you know what, I'm doing it? I know you touched upon a little bit, but take me into where your head was.
So I was feeling a little bit stuck, honestly. Like my organization is really supportive of my growth. They're constantly, if I bring up a professional development opportunity that's cost effective, they're really supportive of developing me as a leader. And as much as I was working on professional stuff, I really invested in professional development in the last 2 years. I really didn't work on anything that I want to do, any kind of personal project like theater, and I've loved improv and I love pop culture. But I kind of am like trying to push other folks. I'm like, yes, that's awesome. You should do that. But I don't really give those pep talks to myself. And I was like, I'm about to turn 30. I really need to follow my dream. And my sister, she works in film, she works in costuming, and she's really followed her dream no matter like what has come up against her. She's constantly working and meeting these awesome people. And I was like, you know what? I want to try doing my thing. So here I am. And I had known that other people in the fellowship had taken kind of personal goals as well. So I was like, you know what? Here's my turn. I'm going to try it.
Do you think there's more of an impact seeing someone close to you being where they want to be, whatever level of success that is? Is it easier to be like, my sister has done it, so I'm going to try it? Or Beyonce, she did it, well, I can do it. Is there a difference? Does it
Ooh,
matter? What is your thoughts on that?
that's a really good question. I would say a little bit of yes. I mean, I will openly say I am riding on the coattails of my sister's success. She is awesome. I mean, she has invited me to different sets and whatnot, and I'm like, this is really cool. And I don't know, it kind of just made things a little bit more normal for me. I was like, these are normal people following what they want to do. And I would definitely say it takes a village to kind of
Right. And they're
keep
not the
you
exception
steered.
that we see all the time. That I can speak for myself that I feel like they're the exception, right? But for you, it's different seeing your sister.
Yeah, seeing my sister, and definitely, I mean, there are like a handful of people I know in the area that do voiceover work. And, I feel like people are always like, oh, so and so does this, or like, it's always just like you said, it's your friend's friend, it's your friend's cousin, it's your coworker, sister. And
Right.
you're like, how are they doing this? Like, how are they working full time and also have a side hustle where they make money and are like, filling their cup? I really wanted to kind of fill my cup, and I see how my sister does it, but I also had an accountability group that kind of kept me on track, kept sending me stuff. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of sat on things for a little while because I was nervous. I was really scared.
Yeah, but now it's your time. That's it. So I totally understand that. It's waiting for that right moment. So I completely understand that. You are one of the nicest people that I know.
Oh my God.
So
Thanks.
I know Nicole through St. Rose. We went to college together. Do you have an influence in your life, or where's your positivity come from? Is it the extrovert in you? Where did you get that wonderful glow that you have? Because I feel like myself and a lot of other people need it.
Well, I will say people always used to say my mom was the nicest person ever, which is true. She is so kind. And I think she kind of raised me to be really kind and kind to others, and also be kind of a lady. Even on the days when she's like, oh, Nicole, don't do that. But she's always taught me that my interactions, I guess, matter. I grew up also with my grandparents who really invested the time. I mean, you think of people who are aging, seniors and whatnot, they always want to share their wisdom, share their stories. And I used to a fault, be too nice. And my mom would have the people over the grocery store amplifier system say, "Hello, Nicole, Dama, come to the front," because I would get stuck helping seniors pick out cards for their grandchildren in the aisles because I just loved, I don't know, I just love learning about other people. Like I'm thirsty for other people's stories, and I think, I guess, if my niceness or kindness is because I just want to welcome others in and learn more about them. I definitely have had my niceness taken advantage of, but at the same time, I think just like, why not be kind? Like, really, I have nothing to lose from from being kind.
That's so nice. Well, whoever takes advantage of your kindness, I'll punch them in the face, personally.
It's been a long time. Don't worry, I've grown my sassiness along with my kindness.
So, who are influences in your life other than your sister?
Oh, well, I actually have two sisters. Both my sisters are hilarious. They're the most funny
What's
people
the
I
age
know.
difference?
My sister Rachel is 32, and then my other sister's 34. They're awesome. I've had a really impactful experience from my fellowship in this past spring that I did that got me to this point. I had this small lead group. They are the most incredible people
Can you
I've
go
ever.
into more detail about that?
Yeah, so
Like
it's
what
the
that
new
is
leaders.
and whatnot?
Yeah. Oh, yes. So the new Leaders Council, Capital District, it's a progressive leadership program, and it's supposed to be in person once a month. You work on a capstone project, and it's all about, building up the next group of progressive leaders to take on today's issues. And, unfortunately, it had to go virtual for most of it. But before we went virtual, we had a really emotional kind of lead weekend. And I got this lead group, and then Hamed, Brenda, Elena, and Kim. All five of us work in different fields. None of us are kind of aligned, but we have connected so well. And they also keep me on my toes. And they have kept me accountable. They're always sending me opportunities. And actually, the first opportunity I got to kind of use voiceover that kind of kickstarted me in this direction again after pandemic, I'm at home and stuff. It's my friend Hamed, and he works at the Boys and Girls Club of the Capital Region, Capital Area, and he was like, "Listen, we're doing this hunger appeal. I would love for you to voice our fundraising video, like use your voice in our fundraising video." And I was so nervous, but I was like, "That's so awesome!" And he was like, "Do you need to get paid?" And I was like, "No, this is a great opportunity. Like, let me do this."
Absolutely not.
Yeah, I was just like,
I love it.
"No, this is fun."
Right, because you
Uh,
saw the opportunity, right?
yeah, so
Yeah.
I seized the hell out of that opportunity, and they actually ended up raising like $13,000 from the video, which is really cool.
Nicole, that's awesome.
Yeah,
That is so cool.
yeah,
For you.
and um,
Good for them too.
right, it was awesome, and it was really fun. I was like volunteering that day, and here I am like talking into my computer, talking into my phone, trying to figure out what worked, and also then my cat is coming in and just being like, "Hey, I want to be a part of this too," and I'm just like, I mean, this must be how people with kids feel, except for on the smallest scale because this is a cat.
Every single time I have to have a very like high level executive conversation with someone, my dog starts crying. Like that French bulldog Winter, and
Oh.
they're like, "What is that?" I'm like, "My dog wants me to open up the back door." But it's shrieking. I don't know why animals know. I think it's the echoing of the excitement from their ears or something like that. I don't know. I'm making that up.
He's
But
probably, is your dog a he or she?
she.
She's probably like, "I'm vibing with you. I'm super excited, but like I gotta go outside and pee because I'm super excited for you."
I'm so excited for your presentation. I have to pay for you.
That's just how I imagine the dog. The dog is like, "Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, presentation. Let's go outside and pee. And then we'll come back and do this presentation." That's just what I imagine your dog's like inner voices.
Did your college experience have anything to do with the influence of wanting to be a voice actress?
I'll say a little bit. I mean, I feel like I almost spread myself too thin in college, that I couldn't necessarily figure out my focus. I changed my major a bunch of times, maybe
You were
five
in a
times.
lot of stuff.
Yes.
You were
And
always doing something, but yet with a smile. And that's why you're so awesome. But you were part of like student association with me. You were doing special events,
Hmm.
right? You were coordinating events for the college, which is so much responsibility. But I feel like those student association, the what's it called? SMB?
SEB, Student
SEB.
Events Board.
So I feel like the student association and the student events board, that really does mold into professional life.
It does. I mean, the fact that I work for an association, and I work for a handful of associations, is a professional club. And so I feel like my college experience of being like so boots on the ground with different activities and a variety of them has kind of prepared me to work in association to be like, how can we support our members? What are their needs? And a big part of my job pre-pandemic was planning our annual conference. Now we did do a virtual one, completely different ball game from the in person, but there's such a rush from events. And I would say one of my most like proud moments was that my friend Sherry Young and I did a supermarket sweep for Social Justice Week in our senior year. Yeah, our senior year. And the college kept that up for a couple years. I don't think it happens anymore because we are not in this world, but we're not in a COVID-free world. I loved that. And it was like, what are the needs of the community and how can these students have fun and get them and get them? And we did it game show style. And now Leslie Jones has brought it back on the big screen. So, people of this generation know a little bit more compared to like the sweater version that I watched as a kid. I feel like the varied experiences I had kind of exposed me to a lot to be like, what do I like? What do I not like? And I do wish I took advantage as being a communications major to get into the radio station or learn about it.
But I feel like you took advantage of those other opportunities to be able to, whether it was negotiate, ask for money from strangers, right? Being able to be on the reciprocating side of that when someone's now requesting something from you and you know how to handle yourself. Like those are things that I wish, and this is a whole nother 4 hours of talk,
Oh
but
yeah.
down a rabbit hole, but wishing that they trained young people those type of traits and experiences and lessons compared to like two trains are going to the same place at different miles per hour. Like I understand those are critical thinking skills that are shallowed behind stupid trains and cars and Sally's here and you got to pick up Greg. But yes, they do underlyingly have critical thinking mindset things, whatever you want to call that. They're bigger, but we don't have those lessons of being able to negotiate. That's why I think that's why used car sales dealerships take advantage of us so well because no one knows how to do it.
Oh my gosh. I
Very
could
few
say
people know how to handle that.
plus one to that, because I sometimes I'm like, oh my God, what did I learn in college that I'm using right now? But I'm like, okay, some of these activities showed me and challenged me with contracts. Because when I was on a senior events chair, I was like, all right, I gotta deal with these vendors and contracts. And I do that now as an adult. I mean, I could always learn to be a better negotiator because I am dealing with these national contracts for a hotel or a vendor coming to our conference. It's really interesting what you kind of pick up and use every day from college, but you're like, but what about this Pythagorean theorem? Oh no, I wish you had taught me a little more about my taxes.
Where do you want to be? Where's your
Ooh.
goal? I don't even want to put a year on it. Everyone's like, where do you want to be in 5 years? I'm like, well, I don't know if it would be 5 years, but I know what I want to accomplish. So I'm not going to have you put a date on it.
Ooh, well, I'll say two things. And I'm like, oh, we're recording this, so I'm speaking into truth. It's recorded, so I can go back and be like, you gotta hold yourself accountable to this. Because if you had asked me 5 years ago where I would be today, I would be like, no way. Or I would be very confused. But I want to, in 5 years, use voice acting or voice artistry to pay off my student loans. Because I really like to use this to kind of build generational wealth. And I also, but like in the more fun manner, I have an adorable niece and she is 2 years old. Her name is Sanaya Alexia McNair. and I want to be on I want to voice one of her cartoons before she goes to school, before she hits kindergarten. That's one of my goals. And she's 2 now, so I was like, I have like 3 years. So hopefully I can build something to, I don't know, become a voice on one of her cartoons, even if it's a background voice or something. I just think that'd be so cool for her to hear her Aunt Coco's voice.
That is so nice. That is the most unselfish goal in the world. So I want to talk about your community involvement. You were part of the Albany, and everyone, we're talking about the upstate Albany capital region, by the way, when we're talking about these cities and these organizations. You have a pretty heavy involvement in the local community, not just by your careers, but you've also been on like a Tulip Council. Weren't you up for a Miss Tulip? Correct me.
Yeah, so I was on the 2012 Tulip Court, which means I was a finalist to be the Tulip Queen. And the Tulip Queen in Court advances the mayor's literacy campaign through the city of Albany, and then you're an ambassador, and volunteer like dozens of hours throughout the year. I mean, over 100 hours, which is awesome. And such a great experience. Like the day that I graduated was the day that I became a member of the Tulip Court. And so I graduated, then got in the back of a police car and went to Washington Park, went in a car throughout the park, and then went up on stage, and then the day was done. It was a crazy day. I'm really grateful for the experience because I met a lot of local organizations and learned how much it takes to put on a lot of big scale events and whatnot. And I met a lot of really awesome volunteers throughout the city. Now I moved to Troy, so my involvement kind of lessened. Also, my involvement also kind of lessened in some of my volunteer activities when I started working full time. But I still volunteer for the Tulip Queen Court Selection Committee, which chooses the next generation of Tulip individuals and women. I volunteer with the Albany Center Gallery on their gala committee, which is really fun organization. So now this year, I'm excited to host their virtual gala with the executive director. I love volunteering from time to time. I feel weird, like kind of listing off things I've done, but I would say one of my favorite things is taking a hobby that you like to do and do it for an organization that needs that work. And I haven't done it since the pandemic started, but I loved cooking for the YWCA in Troy because they needed someone to cook some meals. So every once in a while, I would cook a meal. And I love to cook. A big kitchen, you get all the supplies, all the food and whatnot. And I know it's just really fun.
That is, you literally like, well, I kind of don't really do that much, but I also like feed the homeless. I'm on a
No,
committee.
no.
I'm volunteering for a virtual gala. Very
Uh,
modest, but a lot more than myself and other people do. So you really are super active in your community. Do you love it here? Are you happy that you're here?
I do. Oh, I love the capital region. I think that there's a lot of work to do in the capital region to make things equitable. However, I have loved the people that I've met and that have made an impact on me and shown me the value of community. Because if we've seen anything this year, I mean, our federal government gave people who are like not making any money $1,200, but communities have just supported each other. I would say, my own community of the own village of friends and colleagues have really supported me in times when I was not feeling myself and when I was struggling during the pandemic. And that's what I got to say. Like your community will support you. There are resources out there. There are people who are on the ground doing this amazing work. And the capital region is also saturated with nonprofits.
Hmm.
There's so many, and then there's so many associations because we're the capital of the state. So there's lots of opportunities. If you like doing something, there is someone out there that wants you to volunteer for them to use something you like to do to support them.
So you're extremely modest, positive, and completely unselfish. So you are most definitely a lady with lines, Nicole, for
My
sure.
God. And there's lots of organizations, I will say, that also support people who want to volunteer for that. There's always it's so kind of you to say these things, but I don't feel like I'm doing enough. I constantly struggle with that. So for you to even say that, I really appreciate that. But I'm like, oh, there's so much more I can do. I mean, I phone banked for the first time this year, and I was so nervous about it. My God, because I was like, what if these people hate me or say something mean? But people were actually pretty decent, for the most part.
Well, on a previous episode, we had someone saying cold calling is we had a whole conversation about cold calling and what that can do for personal growth and experience.
Mm-hmm.
So I can completely testify. And I've done it before too. It's
It's
not easy.
intense.
It's not easy.
No, and I have to say, being on the phone is something that has helped. That's definitely a driver of wanting to go into voice acting, voice artistry, because I mentioned I worked a lot of jobs, and I've had to pick up the phone. And I used to work at an art institute. I've worked at a flower shop, and even now you have to pick up the phone and be like, "Hi, how can I help you?" And then you get off the phone, you're like, "Oh my God, that was awful." Or you're on a Zoom, and you're like, I'm so zoomed out." But you have to almost like put on a facade when you're doing like customer service voice.
You have to do that. Hi, I'm Marissa.
Hi,
Hello.
even though you're like,
Oh, your
"Ooh,
package was damaged? That's why you always be nice. Don't be mean. Be assertive and say, "No, I want respect just as much as I'm giving you respect sometimes." Or is there flexibility within the policy that I can get some type of understanding financial help here for my inconvenience? But you don't need to be mean.
yes."
So I've gotten very mean things. I was thanking someone for a donation
Hmm.
and like we'll talk to you next year, and it was like, why are you calling me? I'm like, because you did a donation. You donated your money. I was just calling to say thank you. So
Some people
wrong
you're like,
place, wrong time, but I understand that too, right? So everyone has a bad day, and I just called on that wrong day. But
"Oh, feel that."
what is something that you learned about yourself this year?
I have learned that I will sometimes set myself on fire to keep others warm. It's almost like how you said, "Like, you're always smiling. You're always smiling." I've tried to stay positive, and it's something I have had to learn in a hard way and in a good way. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to not. You can't solve everybody's problems. Like there's people who I interact with or I'm close with that have, gone through depression or they're going through a really hard time. And it's taken me a long time when someone sends you a message or is talking to you. And instead of listening, I'm trying to like solve their problem. It's taken me a minute to get to that. But sometimes there's just really nothing you would do besides say, "That stinks. I'm sorry." I feel like people have relied on me in the past to be kind of like a support for them. And sometimes I just can't. I'm just like, I'm not okay. So I'm gonna do what I need to do to um take care of myself, make sure my needs are met as well. I mean, this is my mother too. I've said it to her and I was like, she'll be like, "Nicole, why are you doing that? Why are you stressing yourself out? Making sure you talk to this and that or deliver this and that. It's not even your job." And I'll be like, "I learned it from you." But it's not being over nice, but I've learned to you really do the only person looking out for you is you. People, I love people, I know people love me or whatnot, but at the end of the day, you really got to take care of yourself. Yeah.
How do you take care of yourself?
Ooh, that's a really good question. It used to be with a really great, well-timed work trip. Um, a small bathtub, and I love taking baths.
Ooh.
Um,
Bubble, do you use the bath bombs?
Yes, I love Lush. Yes, I love bath bombs. I love face masks. Any of that, like, when you Google self-care and those first few images come up, I'm like,
Yeah.
I love that stuff. But also, the one thing I take care to do to take care of myself is if a situation is challenging to me, I will remove myself from a situation because I'm just like, nope, this is not serving me right now or there's nothing I can do to make changes right now. I'm just going to remove myself to a safe space or, shut down. Like the great thing about work flexibility is that, if I'm having an issue in the morning, like it's hard to focus, there's too much news or whatnot. I'm like, all right, I'm going to go back to that in a little while. it's weird because I've been super productive. If I need to pamper myself a little bit, and also this year I've kind of invested in my mental health as well, because I was just like, oh, I'm fine, I'm this and that, but I do work from home, and I talk to people on the phone and through Zoom, but sometimes it is hard to not have that connection with folks. So this year I invested in my mental health, and I would say the most challenging question I got asked, the best question I got asked was, what do you do for yourself without hesitation? And it took me a minute. When I really thought about it, it was like, I'll remove myself. I have a great partner in my boyfriend, in that if we need space, we both are perfectly okay to be like, I really need space. I'm going to go for a walk, or I'm going to go do this. Even to the point where I'm like, I'm going to go check into a hotel for the night, and that's okay. And he's like, you do what you got to do. Because I used to go on work trips, so it would be kind of like exciting to get out of the house for a night. I mean, yes, stay home, stay safe. But if I use some points to take a bath, like completely just like take care of myself.
If you haven't already,
Yeah.
you have to go. Definitely treat yourself. I'm telling you, it is worth it, because I am not a bath person as much as I used to be, because I've lived in places where like the bath, you don't want to take a bath. But
Yeah.
they're in Turning Stone Casino in Verona, New York. Listeners, just Google it, put in Turning Stone Casino in New York.
Mm-hmm.
They have a lodge portion of their hotel connected to the casino, and the bathtub is the size of this room. It's your bathroom. This, like, literally half the size of this room, with like jets in it, I think, or something. I don't know. Maybe it was the plug, but they look like a jet. And no joke, I was in that thing forever.
Oh my God, I would be too.
Absolutely treat yourself 100% to that.
Oh my gosh, I would say, once things die down a little bit, I'm there. That sounds amazing.
Or if
I,
Turning Stone Casino would like to sponsor, we will absolutely go quality control your bathtubs at the
yes,
lodge.
if every once in a while, you just need to soak. He won't cure everything, but a good bath will. You're just like, I just need to soak up a little bit more me tea.
I love that. I love that so much. Thank you for talking about mental health, because more than ever, I think the one thing though that quarantine and the pandemic has brought positive light to, in a horrible circumstance. I'm not saying that it's a plus here, but mental health now I think is being taken so much more seriously than it ever has. And it's because of this unfortunate circumstance. It's a serious ongoing race that will never win, right? There's consistent involvement, whether it's baths or a good book with a glass of wine or talking to a professional, right? So it's a constant involvement of keeping yourself in a state of oasis, really. There's an advocacy for being able to take time for yourself. And it's harder for people pleasers. Like, I'm a major people pleaser.
Plus one, same here.
High five to that. And it's hard to sometimes say, you know what? I even feel guilty saying no, but for myself, I know if I don't take this time, tomorrow's going to be a really bad day, right?
Mm-hmm.
And being honest with ourselves about that. And now I feel like it's okay to have that awareness and be vocal about it.
Most definitely. I agree. I mean, wholeheartedly agree. I mean, it's not that I've always made excuses. Like, I was like, oh, I'm going to invest in my mental health, because in my mind, I was always like, okay, the past year, not this past spring, but I was going to an all women, like, kickboxing gym, women or anyone who identifies as woman, almost kickboxing gym, very empowering. And I was like, yeah, I'm getting my like physical health. And then it's like a almost, it just turns. It's like, oh, you've got your physical health on track. Ooh, mental health. Mm, you know, it's just something I never, I guess, fully invested in. Like, I was like, oh, what do I need to do to take care of myself? And one of my great pleasures used to be taking myself to the movies, taking myself on a date. Because when I lived alone and wasn't dating anyone, I was like, well, I want to take myself on a date. I was like, I'm going to treat myself. Like, why not? And so being in the pandemic, I was like, I can no longer go out on my like movie nights. I mean, yes, we have movie nights in our apartment, but I started to really just kind of need someone outside of work, needing someone outside my friend group. I found a great therapist that I'm working with, and she's my cheerleader. And not in the sense of she's peppy or any of that stuff. She is making sure I advocate for myself and supporting me to advocate for my own needs. And, as a people pleaser and anything, she's like 20 minutes a day, anything. It just 20 minutes for you every day. And even keeping to that, sometimes I'm like, oh, well, I'm doing this. And she's like, well, you like baking, but you're baking for someone else. Is that really for you? I don't know. It's interesting.
20 minutes a day. Takeaway for the listeners. If you're not doing it now, do it tomorrow.
You had asked earlier, what is something that I've learned about myself? I will always make excuses to do something for myself, like seeing a therapist or, going to the dentist, because it's easier to break promises to ourselves than it is to other people. It really
100%,
is.
100%. So getting close to the end here, we ask the concluding question, and it's always the same question for every person that comes on the podcast.
Hit me, I'm ready.
What is one thing that you've gone through that everyone should go through?
Ooh, that's interesting. That's a really good question. I've never been asked that before. And I'm like, I feel like there's a culture around wanting people to suffer in order to earn something. And honestly, even if you fail, I think that everybody should try to achieve something that they really want out of life since they've wanted to be as a kid. Because even if you're failing, I saw something literally yesterday or the day before from Jim Carrey talking about his dad working in finance or something, and how his dad always wanted to be a comedian, but was like, let me do something sensible. And he failed, he got let go. And it was like, at least if you're failing at something you really like, you'll pick yourself back up. Like, how can you be like, oh, I really hate this, but I got fired from it, but I'm going to put all of my energy into putting into something that I really hate. And my first response wanted to be of something I think everybody should experience, a little bit of that childhood joy, something you really wanted as a kid that you kind of have forgotten as you become an adult, because we can become so jaded and feeling like, oh, this can't happen, or I recognize that my resources are different than others. I don't want to, there's so much death right now around us that I do feel kind of an urgent desire to invest in something for myself that I've wanted for a really long time. And even if I do really rough at it, I went for it. I can't say I didn't try. I won't look back at my life. No, no matter when it ends, like I can always say I kind of went for it. Because if there's one thing that I do, I will do it with style, of course, as I flip my hair.
And you're doing exactly what you just spoke about.
Yeah. And I'm like,
fantastic.
And I'm scared, I'm scared of this, but at the same time, it's just like, I'm going for it. Otherwise, like, I'm full of it, but I'm going for it. I'm trying.
And we are here to support you.
Oh, thank you.
This community is here to support you. This was a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much. To follow Nicole and her voice acting career, please visit her website at worlddomination.com. And then you can follow Nicole on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at World Domination. Nicole, you are taking a chance on yourself with your head held high. You donate your time to your community. You're positive, and most importantly, what we've learned from today is you're stopping and taking care for yourself. Thank you so much for sharing your story today. And you are a lady with lions. Thank you so much for talking to us today.
Thank you for having me. This was awesome. And I'm really encouraged by your entrepreneurial journey as well to keep it going. So thank you.
You got to stick together, girlfriend. Have a wonderful